The first generation Pokemon are by far the best generation, and anybody who says differently clearly did not grow up in the 1990s and early 2000s. Now, with modern Pokemon designs sometimes being downright laughable, looking at you, Trubbish and Vanillish, it is easy to say that all Gen 1 Pokemon were so much better designed, but even amongst some of the best designed Pokemon ever, like Charizard, Zapdos, Dragonite, hell, even Pikachu, there are a few Gen 1 lame Pokemon as well. And as much as I'd love to throw on the nostalgia blinders that tell me that all original 151 are perfect in every way, today we're actually going to take a look at the 10 worst Pokemon from Generation 1. Now, it's important to keep in mind that just because it is on this list doesn't mean it's a bad Pokemon. Some Pokemon are just meant to be worse than others, and even though they're on this list, they still may have good qualities about them. But for whatever reason, they are just annoying or weaker in the game for the most part. But let's go ahead and jump right in with number 10, Zubat. Now, caves were always everyone's biggest fear in Generation 1, not because of the trainer battles or because you need to use Flash to get through them, but because of the endless hordes of Zubats. It seemed like every 3 steps would be another encounter with one, which made getting through tunnels a massive, annoying grind. Not to mention that Zubat is one of the weaker Gen 1 Pokemon, has a weak stat pool and moveset, and it does have a cool evolution in Golbat, but that's just about all it has going for it. The whole reason Repels even exist seems to be to get through without hitting any Zubats, so I guess there's that going for it as well. Next up, we have Execute, another weird Pokemon design in Gen 1 that nobody really seems to care for. It can only be caught in the Safari Zone, so that may help explain why not that many people like it. Again, it's a weak Pokemon, so it may have never actually made it into anyone's party as they're playing through this game. Execute is also a pretty creepy looking Pokemon when you stop and think about it. It's 6 weird looking eggs that have eyes on it and that are alive. Not to mention that one of the eggs is cracked open with what we presume as its brain exposed. I mean, how creepy is that? Total nightmare fuel for any 5-year-old. Now, people always seem to make fun of modern Pokemon designs and call some of them lazy and dumb, and the fact that they're based off of things like keychains or a candlestick. But they seem to forget that some of the first generation were also that lazy. For example, Voltorb and Electrode are basically just Pokeballs with eyes. Not to mention the laziness of making its evolution the same thing, just bigger and upside down. Like, whoa, that's a crazy neat evolution. Wow, that blew my mind. I mean, these Pokemon rarely play a role in anyone's playthrough of the games, and they're just kind of the Pokemon you catch for the Pokedex and leave them to rot in the Pokebox and the Pokemon Center for all eternity. Number 7 goes to everyone's most hated water-type Pokemon in the entire game, Tentacruel. It is basically the Zubat of surfing. The non-stop encounters with this jellyfish Pokemon are annoying enough to make you want to pull your hair out. That's why we fly to Cinnabar Island, goddammit. On top of that, of being a nuisance, Tentacruel, it really has no redeemable qualities. It's a weak, it has subpar water and poison-based moveset, and doesn't have that good of stats anywhere really. Maybe speed, but who cares, you know? I mean, sure, it has a decent design based on a jellyfish, and its evolution has that one really cool episode of the anime, but this Pokemon is another one to just skip over entirely. Now, Dugtrio is by no means a weak Pokemon. In fact, with moves like Slash and Earthquake, coupled with its very high speed stats, it's actually quite powerful. But the reason that it makes my list is because of its lazy design. I mean, sure, Diglett is a mole, and it just has its head, that's fine. But to have the evolution just be 3 of the same Pokemon combined into a 3-headed mole monster from hell just seems kind of cheap and lazy. Maybe they rushed this Pokemon. I mean, they could have had a design where Diglett's full body emerged from the ground to be this badass super walking mole thing. But no, we got Dugtrio. Side note, however, this is by far the easiest Pokemon to draw. So, I guess it's got that going for it. Next up is Farfetchd, the weaker Pidgey with a stick. This Pokemon is pretty damn useless in Gen 1. I mean, first off, you can't even catch one in Red and Blue. You have to trade a Sparrow for it in Vermilion City, which already makes it kind of freaking lame. Then it has terrible moveset and weak stats to boot. and just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, you find out it doesn't have any evolution and it's stuck being this weak little bird the entire game. I mean, there's almost no real reason to use this Pokemon in Gen 1. It is outclassed by many other bird type Pokemon. It does have the potential of a cool design with a gimmick of its stick, but the developers just didn't capitalize on it in Generation 1. Our number 4 spot is another Pokemon with a weird design, and it's Porygon. Its Pokedex entry tells us that it's a man-made Pokemon made up of programming code. Not the worst idea ever, but the execution was poor. First off, in the original game, the only way to get Porygon was through the game corner by buying it for 9,999 coins. However, a major flaw was that you could only buy 50 at a time. So that was either mash the A button for hours upon hours upon hours, or try your hand at the slots, all of which took an enormous amount of time. The worst part about it was that once you actually got Porygon, he was an awful Pokemon in the game. It doesn't even evolve until later generations, so it's completely useless in the original games. Not to mention, it had that one seizure-inducing anime episode that one time. Another Pokemon you couldn't catch in Red and Blue was Licka Tongue. Now, the design was a little bit weirder than most typical Gen 1 Pokemon, and it really had no purpose in the games other than to fill out the rest of your Pokedex. It was easily one of the most forgettable of the original 151, and most people seem to have forgotten completely about it. On top of that, its moveset is less than impressive, and its stats are weaker than most other normal types like Snorlax. Licka Tongue did get an evolution, but not till way later generations. Other than the occasional meme, Licka Tongue is good for just about nothing. In our runner-up spot is everyone's least favorite fish Pokemon, Magikarp. Now, it seems by now that almost everyone is aware of how Magikarp is the weakest Pokemon in the entire game. I mean, the useless splash attack is all it really knows until you grind it up, and it takes out so many times of switching in and out of battle in order to level this Pokemon up. On top of that, Magikarp can become somewhat annoying if you're trying to fish for the better water types, as its encounter rates are much higher. The only thing keeping this from our number 1 spot is the fact that Gyarados is one of the most badass and powerful Pokemon of all time. So it's worth the wait for that Magikarp to level up, however crappy and long of an experience that may be. And finally, our number 1 worst Generation 1 Pokemon goes to Muck. And Muck has the perfect storm of lazy design, weak stats, and a lame moveset. Again, it is basically the same thing as Grimer, just bigger. So it's a lazy design. They could have done something completely different with it, but they decided just to make it bigger and more purple. So snaps to them on that. I mean, people give Trubbish so much criticism for being a pile of garbage, but they seem to forget that Muck is just a pile of sludge with eyes. I mean, this Pokemon is really not that great when you think about it. There was also that one time that Muck came in the clutch for Ash in the anime, but that was about the only time that Muck has ever been useful for anything in either the games or the show. And that is why he is our number 1 worst Pokemon of Generation 1. But that's all we have time for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps me out when you guys take a second to hit that like button and share my videos. Let's try and get this video to at least 500 likes. I know you guys can do it, so make sure to click on that. Also, let me know what you think the worst Pokemon are down in the comment section below. Did I miss something? Did I put one of your favorite Pokemon on the list? I'd love to know your guys' opinions on this, so make sure you guys are dropping all the comments on there. I'll be interacting and reading them with you guys, so looking forward to that. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed for more Pokemon videos coming soon through your sub boxes. I'm going through all the generations of Pokemon so far, and we'll be doing videos like this, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, guys, remember that's always K-Mac time somewhere. Until then, take it easy, and peace out.